Welcome to the Happier and Healthier podcast. I'm your host, Maria Marlowe, and this is a place where we don't rely on good luck or good genes for our health and happiness, but rather we create it with our thoughts and our actions each and every single day. Each week, I'll bring you a thought or a guest that will help you live your happiest and healthiest life. Are you ready? Welcome back to the Happier and Healthier podcast. I'm your host, Maria Marlowe. Today's guest is a dear friend of mine, Cassandra Bodzak, and we're going to be talking all about eating more mindfully and eating with intention. In fact, she is the author of the book, Eat with Intention, Recipes and Meditations for a Life That Lights You Up. If you struggle with cravings, stress eating, or overeating, this episode is definitely for you, and we're going to share a ton of tips to help you eat more mindfully and make peace with your plate. Before we get started, check out these brands that make the Happier and Healthier podcast possible. Your digestion is a window to your overall health. When we're having digestive issues like gas, bloating, irregularity, constipation, indigestion, all of these things are usually the precursor to problems other places in our body, such as skin issues, autoimmune issues, and more. If you struggle with any of these issues or are just looking to improve your digestion, then you need to check out Hyperbiotics Pro 15 Probiotics. Hyperbiotics has created the most effective probiotic on the market. In fact, their formulation has been found to be 15 times more effective than capsules. So if you've tried probiotics before and they haven't worked, I encourage you to try these. If you haven't tried a probiotic before, what are you waiting for? Probiotics can help with regularity, reducing gas and bloating, and overall improving your digestion. With better digestion comes better health overall. You can check them out at hyperbiotics.com, that's hyperbiotics.com, and use the code HYPERMARIA for 20% off your order. Thanks for being here, Cassandra.
Thanks for having me, Maria.
I'm so excited. So I haven't seen you since we were on the Reality Israel trip.
Oh my gosh, yes.
April.
Yes, we went on an epic trip together to Israel.
That was amazing. Yeah, anyone who has the opportunity to go on a Reality Israel trip, definitely check it out. They're an amazing organization, and it was just such a beautiful trip. We toured the entire country. We got to taste all the food, learn about the culture, and we got very close. So I'm really happy to have you on the podcast to talk a little bit about your book, Eat with Intention. So what exactly does that mean, to eat with intention?
So the concept of eat with intention really comes from me feeling like we get so overloaded with everybody's concepts about how to eat and everybody's rules and all these different kind of like dogmas of like you have to fit into this school or that school. And when people ask me like, how do I eat? And I think I eat with intention. And so that is really loving your body and tuning into your body and being in a place where you are connected to your body enough to say, what feels good and nourishing for me to eat right now? What do I want to fuel me? What's going to feel my best? So Eat with Intention is everything. It's a manual that like walks you through step by step, releasing negative self-talk around your body, kind of making penance with your body for any negative self-talk or any negative things you may have done to it, and then learning how to talk to your body again. So having a daily practice that enables more self-love around your body, as well as more communication around your body, tuning in on a daily basis and asking your body, what do you need to feel your best? What do you need more of? What do you need less of? What should I stop eating? And I think so much that like our body is like desperate to give us signs and signals and stuff that people are always astonished about like what flows through when they finally like give their body the mic and like open up their ears to listen. And so Eat with Intention starts from that place of really listening and eating from that place.
So what if your body is telling you to have a Snickers bar?
Yeah, so I actually don't believe our body ever tells us to have a Snickers bar. But what happens is when we have those cravings, our body is trying to communicate something to us, right? And so like let's just I know like Snickers is like peanuts and stuff, so it could be in a couple different categories. But I'm going to say overall like candy would be sweet, right? So I think if your body's craving sweetness at the end of a long day, which is actually really common, I mostly work with a lot of female entrepreneurs. And so what I actually find that this is super common with my female entrepreneurs is that they crave chocolate or some sort of candy or sweet thing at the end of the night because what they're really craving is sweetness. So what your body is telling you is that it needs some sweetness. And then we interpret it to mean a Snickers bar, right? And oftentimes that is interpreted based on our autopilot behaviors around food. So I think if we went around, if we like asked everyone, if we both could talk about this too, we probably all have like an autopilot sweet and an autopilot savory, right? That is like our go-to when we're like feeling like a sweet. It's like, no, I have to have that red velvet cupcake, or I have to have that piece of dark chocolate, or I have to have the Snickers bar. And so when you're actually craving love and sweetness, then oftentimes that's what you want. So I think when you're craving things that are a little like, there is a part of Eat With Intention where I talk about questioning your cravings more. And one of the examples I give is actually, it takes me back to New York, which is pretty funny. There was this place in New York that was called Palm Frites that I don't think is here anymore. It was burned down like in a fire. But before it was burned down, I used to frequent it. It was like my naughty delight. I still love French fries. French fries is like my savory. Mm-hmm. But I was eating French fries. Like I noticed all of a sudden I was eating it like every night. And after like 3 nights of French fries, I was like, I know better than this. Like I'm eating French fries for dinner. What's going on, Cass? And I checked in and I actually realized that my body was craving like grounding foods. It was craving potatoes. It was craving heavier foods because I was eating so many like salads and smoothies earlier in the day. And it was winter in New York. So it made sense. But my mind was convoluting that to want the French fries. And so what I did as soon as I kind of had that moment with it is I made myself an amazing like array of roasted root vegetables. You know, I got a bunch of carrots and sweet potatoes and like made myself what now is in Eat With Intention as the grounding bowl. I made that for myself and I realized, oh, that actually satisfies the craving, you know? So I think sometimes it's really just questioning our cravings and asking, are we really hungry for that food, or are we hungry for a feeling? Or are we hungry for potentially something in that food category, right, but that's just the way that we're used to receiving it?
Right. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think that we often misinterpret our cravings, and we're just, when we want something sweet, our automatic thought is that we do want candy, or we want a brownie, or we want something like that. And it's just because that's what's advertised, that's what we see, that's what's readily available, but we're not thinking, oh, I can have a piece of fruit instead, or I can have some sweet root vegetables, anything like that.
And totally, it's like rewiring your patterns. And I think we all fall into ruts like that, right? You find an awesome bakery, or you find, you get into it. We're habitual people, right? So like you find something that you're like in the habit of liking, and then you automatically go to that. You're like, oh wow, I had that one awesome chocolate chip cookie, and then before you know it, you're getting a chocolate chip cookie every day, you know, instead of like being like, oh, maybe I just could have some raspberries,
right?
You know,
exactly.
And so I think a lot of it is also, once you start questioning your cravings, is finding replacements for them,
right? Yeah, I think there's always healthier upgrades. And just to share a little of my own personal experience, so I noticed that recently, every single day I would sit down at my computer, and when I would get to a hard email or a hard decision that I have to make, all of a sudden I had this intense compulsion that I needed to get out of my chair and go find some dark chocolate immediately.
Yeah.
It was like, that's all my brain could think about was I needed dark chocolate. And it was not that I was hungry, and it's not even that I necessarily desired something sweet. It was that I didn't want to deal with whatever issue was at hand, and I was using it as an escape. So once I realized I was doing that, and for a long time I was giving in. I was having dark chocolate every day. I was like, oh, it's dark chocolate, it's coconut sugar sweetened. And I'm like, no, this is not good. I realized I was at the mercy of the chocolate in a way,
Yeah.
I wasn't controlling it. And so I stopped. I totally quit, and it's actually been 7 days. I haven't had any dark chocolate. Yeah.
Congrats. I did a similar thing with coffee. Well, caffeinated coffee. I allow myself decaf now as a treat. But it was a similar like compulsion almost, where I noticed that would be like my thing. I'd like get through the point of my workday and I'd hit like a snag, or I'd need a break, or I'd feel overwhelmed, or something would happen, and like my thing would be to go get that coffee. And so again, like both of us, and for you guys listening at home, like notice those things that are like your crutches. Notice the things you reach for when that thing like triggers you or stresses you out, or you want that, you know, that hit of something. And whether it's coffee or, you know, I found that the farther you get along the path, it's not that it stops happening. The choices just get a little healthier. You know, like we're not like eating whatever, like bacon cheeseburgers or whatever, you know, every time you're stressed out. Now you're eating, I remember before I binged a tofu that you could buy, and it was coming from that same crazy place, right? And it wasn't like I wasn't eating like a terrible amount of it. It was like a small Whole Foods container of it, but it was the energy that I was eating it with.
Right.
You know? I don't know if I said it, but I am actually 2 weeks off caffeinated coffee now.
That's amazing.
Which feels like a freaking amazing milestone.
But the longer that you go without it, I find the less that you actually want it.
Totally. Like now, like first of all, I've already transitioned to like my first morning thing used to always be coffee, and I've already transitioned to the fact that like I just get awesome yogi teas. Mm-hmm. Like I just saw you have them too. Like I love yogi teas. I have awesome like green teas. I have all the different teas. So I just switched over to teas. And then same thing with like when I do feel like the craving, I'm like allowing myself 1 decaf. Mm-hmm. Or pretty much I've been trying to keep it to like 2 or 3 for a week max. But it's kind of just part of this like transitional phase. Because the caffeine in the coffee is really what bothers me, mm-hmm. which is like really not good for me. And also the cycle of how I was using it was for energy, right? So if I'm getting the decaf, then I'm not getting a hit from it.
Right.
You know? So it's been really helpful, almost to the point where like I'm like, it's just natural. I don't know why I would ever go back to caffeinated.
Right. I mean, same. So I actually also use tea as a replacement for my dark chocolate. It allows me to just get up from my desk for a second and take a break for a minute, go get some hot tea. So it's the ritual of doing it. It gives me something to do. And then I have this nice warm cup on my desk, and I have all sorts of different teas, and they smell good, and then you can sip them slowly. And even with the green tea, even though it has caffeine, it's much gentler on the body. And I noticed that for me, the dark chocolate, there's caffeine in dark chocolate. And it was keeping me awake. Like I thought I had adrenal fatigue, and it was really like I was wired, and I was having this second wind at night. And it was because I was eating all of this chocolate. And so initially I was like, how am I going to go a day without dark chocolate? And I got over 1 day, and then I got over 2 days, and then I got to 3 days. And I'm like, I really don't even want it anymore.
It's like any other 12-step program, right? Like, just take it a day at a time, right? It's always going to be hard. Like, it's always going to be hard giving up that thing that's your clutch thing that you're kind of... But the thing is, I think as you're listening to this, you automatically know... You already know as you're listening to this what that thing is for you, what your crutch is right now. And so I always think that's just a great thing to keep an eye on and see, you know, for me, when I was in a phase where I was having desserts every night, even if it was like, you know, I'm like pretty much a pro at making like vegan, gluten-free, like everything free. I joke it's like just stardust because there's nothing in it. Nonetheless, it was like having a dessert every night. Right. And I was like, okay, well, what am I really craving? Because I really am definitely not craving. I eat full meals. I'm not craving dessert every night. Right. And I realized that I just was craving sweetness. You know, and so that's like now I have a nighttime bath ritual. I take a bath almost every night. And if I don't take a bath, then I'll have a cup of rose tea and like read a book with like a candle lit. Yeah. But I need that feeling of like warmth and like cuddling or whatever at night.
Yeah, so that's a good exercise for anyone listening. If you do feel like you have a crutch food, think about why. What is the feeling that you get whenever you feel like you want to reach for the food? Are you really hungry? Most of the time, we're not actually hungry. It's just some feeling that's triggering it, whether it's boredom or just in need of a distraction or loneliness or whatever that emotion might be. It's typically an emotion that's going to be triggering it. So if you can figure out how you can fill that emotion in another non-food way, that's really the best way. It gives you something to do, so you don't feel like there's a void, and it makes it a lot easier to get over whatever that habit is.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about your cooking philosophy. So it's very similar to my own. So what is your food philosophy?
My food philosophy is, eat plants, whole foods, listen to your body, right? I'm a big, if you looked at what I eat, you could call me a vegan. But I encourage people to forget labels and just listen, because I think it's so much more important when those choices of whatever path if you want to categorize yourself or whatever path you go, when those choices actually come from prioritizing what feels the best for your body, then you don't feel restricted, right? You don't feel like there's like off limits foods. It's like, oh no, I eat the way I eat because that's how my body feels the best. I eat the way I eat because that's what my body tells me it likes. And so that's pretty much my food philosophy, is listening to your body, doing the work, but taking time and actually becoming a food detective, which is something I talk about in the book too, where I feel like if you were starting a business, you would spend all this time like doing research and development. You would figure out like, oh, okay, how did that thing go? I tried that angle. Did it go well? Did it not go well? But like, we eat every day, and like our well-being is our number one priority, and we don't oftentimes do the same R&D when it comes to our body. I just encourage people to do that. And of course, like I said, it's all about the intention you eat with, because one of the things that I struggled with, having like an eating disorder and working through a lot of negative self-talk around my relationship with food and my body, was that I could eat like kale salads or drink the green juice and all that stuff, but if I'm eating it from a place of I have to eat this kale salad so I can lose 20 pounds because I'm not good enough right now, it's a completely different energy than eating that kale salad from a place of, oh, I'm going to eat this kale salad because, when I'm eating a salad for lunch, let's say, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to eat this because I really want to be really clear-headed from my afternoon meetings. I want to feel like energized and satiated, but I don't want to be exhausted, Then you're eating it from such a place of like self-love and nourishment, wanting to take care of yourself. So, and likewise, I think you can eat French fries from the same place, right? You can think, oh, I'm going to eat French fries because, who cares, and like, why do I even try, or whatever, or you can eat French fries like I eat French fries when I eat French fries, right, where I'm like, you know what, like, I want some French fries right now, and that feels good to me, and that's honoring, and I eat healthy all the time, so I'm allowed to have my French fries, or I'm allowed to have that veggie burger, or I'm allowed to have whatever it is, from a place of just like love and acceptance, and not from a place of like restriction or feeling like I have to eat a certain way to be a certain thing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree. And I think when you make that mental shift from eating healthy because I'm trying to beat my body into submission versus I'm eating healthy because I love my body and I want to nourish myself and I want to feel good, I like the way that I feel, it's a complete game changer, because eating healthy and living healthy no longer becomes something that you have to do, but something that you want to do. And when you want to do something, things get done. When you have to do something, you keep putting it off.
It's so true. It comes from and that's also like what I say, I think it's so helpful for you to actually have those discoveries yourself, and why I like always encourage people to like go do it yourself, like go do the R&D yourself, go ask your body yourself. It doesn't have to be about me, giving you a meal plan. It doesn't have to be about me like telling you what foods I think work for your body or don't, because it's so much more powerful when it comes from you.
Right.
When you have the experience, when you're like, oh wow, I just realized this week that I always eat bagels for breakfast and I'm exhausted all the way till lunch, and I have time. Wow, I never even thought about that because I just assumed that was normal. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up grabbing an oatmeal or a smoothie or whatever, and I noticed that I don't feel that way.
Right. So for someone who's listening who is like, okay, I don't know how to listen to my body, or whatever my body tells me is that I want pizza and bagels. So what do you have to say to that person? How can you start actually doing that R&D and listening to your body and making choices based on that?
Yeah. So I would say two different things to those two angles. So the first one that I would say, if they're like, I don't even know where to start, would be like, start by, if you have some sort of morning ritual in the morning, by simply, actually, even before that, what an exercise I recommend people do is to write a letter to your body. and just write a letter to your body apologizing. We've all done some funky, messed up things to our body, or if we thought mean things about our body. I don't know if anybody is like completely innocent about that. And just like come clean and be like, hey, you know, I'm frustrated with you right now. I wish I could eat all the pizza in the world and like not gain weight and feel good, but I can't. You know, I'm breaking out or whatever, you know, just like give the realness away to your body. And then at the end, close it with being like, but I want to love you. I want to nourish you. I want to take good care of you. So I'm ready for you to show me how to do it. And then stream of consciousness, write a letter back to yourself from your body. I've had a lot of clients that have like really beautiful breakthroughs just doing that process alone. And then the second thing I would do is I have them incorporate into their daily ritual. So if you meditate every day, you take any journaling time or you do anything regularly to kind of help yourself tune in, add a moment there. You put hand on your heart, hand on your navel, and just tune in and ask your body, hey, what would feel nourishing to eat today? What is there anything that I'm doing that's not working for you right now? I actually have a full guided meditation on YouTube for free that I can give you to link to, that like people can try it out if they need help to like
Definitely.
do it along with me. I just say do that consistently for 2 weeks. You know, it's like anything. It's kind of like if you have a friend, let's say that you stopped talking to 7 years ago and you start to call them again, they might not pick up on the first time.
That's a very good analogy.
Your body's not like friends. Your body's not holding a grudge. But what happens is that line of communication is a little dusty. So if you keep consistently show up for it, by the end of, usually it doesn't even take 2 weeks, but like by the end of a week, you'll start noticing things, right? And it really just comes from taking that mindful moment, right? Tuning in and actually asking. And then, for the person, here's the thing. First of all, I think even the person listening to this being like, my body's craving pizza, I'm just going to straight up say that's a lie. I'm going to straight up say that I actually believe that you know that that's not true. Because maybe your body's craving carbs. And that could be something. Maybe your body's craving quick burning energy fuel. That could be something that you're feeling right now. But I would venture to actually say that your body is craving actual sustenance and satiation. And I'm not saying you can't have pizza. Like, that's not at all what I'm saying. But I'm just saying that, like, if you're craving pizza, I would put pizza in like a savory box. And oftentimes things like pizza or guacamole, I call them like party foods. And it usually means that you want to have more fun in your life, right? And so I would unwrap the craving, right? If you're like, oh no, I keep on craving these not so good for you foods, like really ask yourself, like maybe do some journaling on that. Maybe just think on it. I think we're a lot more intuitive and smarter than we give ourselves credit for. And so I think if you actually sit with it seriously, you'll be able to figure out what is the pizza? Where's the emotional connection to the pizza? And then replace it with something. And, maybe you like, maybe you grew up Italian. And so you like that, tomatoes, cheese, bread, kind of like carb kind of situation. Okay. So maybe start experimenting one week and being like, can I get quinoa pasta? And some, and if you eat cheese, maybe get cheese from the farmer's market. Or if you don't eat cheese, get like an awesome vegan cheese, or do one of my bean cheese sauces, and little tomato sauce on it. And experiment kind of like I did with the French fry situation of like, can I try to use these same kind of elements, these same flavor palette, but in a way that's actually going to be more nourishing to my body, and see if it solves that craving. Because a lot of times it will. If you're actually genuinely craving the flavor profile of something, then you can shift it out. But I find more often than not when it comes to foods like that, it's like we're craving a feeling when it's a food like that. Or we're just such in an autopilot habit that that's become our autopilot, like quote unquote naughty food.
Right. Yeah, I think self-reflection is so important in all areas of our life. And I think it's something that we forget to do or just don't do at all. So I think learning to listen to your body is really a practice. Like you said, if you haven't called your friend in 7 years, she might not pick up right away, but you got to keep calling back, and eventually she'll pick up, and you'll really start to feel and understand and recognize your intuition and be able to use it. In terms of the practicality of things, so a lot of times people feel that they don't have the time to eat healthy, or they're very busy and they're always on the go. So what are your feelings on meal planning or meal prepping, and how do you maintain a healthy lifestyle while having a hectic life?
Yeah. So I think this is a great question, something that I think comes up a lot and is super intimidating to people that are trying to make healthy choices but don't have copious amounts of time. And so I think what I always like to do is I call it rigging yourself for success. It's like a common thing in my Practical Magic group that we talk about, is kind of learning where your weaknesses are, learning where you slide off track, and literally rigging yourself to be able to move past them. So for food, it's really easy. Like write down all of your habitual maneuvers, right? So for instance, a lot of us are way more habitual than we like care to admit or realize, right? And so if you actually write down for those 2 weeks how you eat, what you eat, where you go to eat in the mornings, then you can find things that are like only like, let's say like 2 millimeters in the healthy direction away from them, but like a world away, right? So for instance, if you're like, oh, I always end up at Starbucks getting that yogurt parfait right now, right? And you're like, I'm doing the best I can at Starbucks. The yogurt parfait seems decent, right? Okay. But you're like, if you want to do a step ahead of that, then maybe you're like, okay, can I go and spend some time at like my local co-op or the farmer's market or Whole Foods or whatever store like that you have by you, and really like look at the ingredients and pick out a great granola. Or maybe granola is something that's super easy to make too. I love making my own granola. So maybe make a batch of your granola if that's something that you love having, and have that and maybe some fresh berries, and like go and like look at all different yogurts and pick a yogurt that resonates with you, that's low sugar, that, is all natural, whatever your particular dietary type is. Like I always get almond milk yogurt, right? And so it's finding those like little hacks. Like, okay, how can I keep the thing that I want, or keep something? I had one client who she ended up literally losing like 40 pounds in a few months. And literally all I did was shift slightly every meal, because she was eating out for every meal because of her schedule. She like ran 5 businesses. She has 3 kids. She literally did not have, I work with a lot of women that are like, I don't have time. Like she was one of the ones I was like, yeah, you really don't have time. And so we just shifted little things. Like she was having like a bagel with cream cheese in the morning. And I was like, can I swap that? Can we do Ezekiel toast with avocado instead? She's like, yeah, I can do that and take you the same amount of time. So you want to think about things like that for yourself. You want to think, okay, if I'm eating something in the morning because I only have 5 minutes before I go to work, don't replace it with something that's going to take you 20. Right? Replace it with something that's also as fast, but just now is like more nourishing. Same thing, what we did for her for lunch. It was like, okay, she had a bad habit of fast food. And I was like, okay, can you promise me that every time you like want to get fast food, you go to Chipotle instead? I'm like, it's still out there. It's still fast food. You're still like, maybe you have to go in and get it. But like almost anything at Chipotle will be better than anything at McDonald's or In-N-Out or anything like that, And so I think it's being really honoring of where you're at and where your habits are at right now, and thinking like, oh, if I always go to this deli by my work for lunch, can we just find a better thing at that deli? Can you experiment and try maybe some of the salads at that deli instead of your usual like chicken parmesan or whatever you get,
It's all about little upgrades.
Yeah, like making little incremental upgrades, and they actually make a massive difference. And all of a sudden it's shifting the way you look at things and changing those habits to healthier habits. So as far as the meal prep question goes, I personally am not a huge meal prepper. And so do I think there's tremendous value in it? Absolutely. I think if you are someone that has the kind of life where it makes sense for you to prep, I think especially like if you have kids or you happen to like, Sunday is like a great night to meal prep. And if that's something that like you get into with your family and it's a fun thing you do, everybody goes food shopping on Sundays and then you meal prep, or if that's just something you really genuinely enjoy doing for yourself, like do it. Like I said, I probably meal prep in like tiny batches sometimes. Like sometimes I'll make my own granola because I usually always, sometimes there's been recent some like new paleo granolas that are actually super clean that I'm like excited about, but usually nothing is up to my standards. So I make my own granolas and I just put them in like big jars on my counter for the morning, because I'll make them like nut free and grain free and all that. I mean, not grain free, not nut free. And then sometimes when I make like falafel or I make veggie burgers, I'll just, I'll triple the recipe and like put them in the freezer. So I just have them around. So I mostly do like that kind of stuff where I'll like, try to make extra when I'm making the original thing and then just store it. But I personally have just like never loved meal prepping. So I think that's one of the other things. Like meal prepping is a great tool, but it's not like you're not hopeless if you don't meal prep, and you don't have to meal prep or love meal prepping to make living a healthy lifestyle work.
Exactly. I think that you can, within your lifestyle and within whatever restaurants you're going to or whatever area you live, you can find the better choices and you don't necessarily need to meal prep. I do find with a lot of my clients that work in an office setting and that have long hours, that some of them really like I had one was an architect, and she used to love making salad jars because she was like, I would do this every Sunday and I would plan them out so perfectly and like layer all the ingredients, and so they're all so beautiful. And she's like, it was very calming for me. So she loved making salad jars, and she'd do roasted veggies during the winter and stuff.
Oh, I like that.
So for some people it really works. For other people, they can't fathom spending a few hours on a Sunday putting things in jars, and, which is totally fine. So you have to just figure out what works for you.
Yeah, and I also think too, like for me, most of the time I'm really lucky that my lifestyle is I work for myself. I have flexible hours. I can really cook in real time. And then the weeks that I have where like I'm on set for something, or the weeks that I have where I'm traveling, or I have like a crazier schedule, or I'm at a conference. I know you just went to a conference this weekend. Like I'm the same way. When I go to things like that, that's when I meal prep.
Right.
Then I'm going there with my little like my little baggie, and I have like all my snacks, and I have like my salad and my prep thing. In those instances, I love meal prepping, and I also told Maria before that I love meal prepping when I fly, because I'm someone that loves to eat when I'm flying, and I know I'm going to be in the air and be like, there's nothing on this menu I want to order, there's nothing in the airport I want to get. And now airports are getting a little bit better, but like nothing is as good as like your own stuff, I think. For sometimes.
Sure. Yeah, no, Cassandra and I were talking. This past weekend, I went to the Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within conference, which was amazing. And I knew that there was not going to be any healthy options at the arena. So
so ironic too, right? For that.
Yeah. Well, you can. I mean,
Tony Robbins
stadium.
like preaches so hard about fueling too, but there's like so much he can do,
right. So I packed I made some salad jars. I did like a roasted veggie bowl salad jar, and then another just like a shrimp salad jar, and it was such a lifesaver. And it's so nice. Like for me, I love just being able to pull something out of the fridge or pull something out of my bag and open the top and it's ready to go, and I know the ingredients are really clean. I know they used good oils, I know they used good salt and all of that stuff. So I was so thankful and happy that I did that, because I don't know what I would have done for those 12-14 hour days without it. So I think there's a time and a place for everything, and it's just a matter of figuring out what works best for your lifestyle.
Totally.
So you mentioned earlier practical magic. What is that?
So Practical Magic is kind of what I guess you would call it my signature program. It's my main like VIP coaching program, and it's a 6-month journey, and it's pretty much me like opening my full playbook. I started off with food, and I started off with like connecting to my body and my intuition that way. But then once I got going with it, I really like blew the lid off of things in the magical realm, and really connected to reprogramming my thoughts and manifesting and using the words I speak as wands, and defining my own relationship with my higher power, and coming up with rituals and elixirs. And Eat with Intention, some people joke that if you really read it, it feels a lot like a spell book, because it is a spell book in that kind of context, where each recipe has a mantra that's like infused with that energy when you make that recipe, and it has meditations, and that's just because that's so who I am and everything I do. And so Practical Magic is kind of taking that just out of the kitchen and into every aspect of your life. So there is a whole section in Practical Magic where we go through the body work, where we have them connect to their body, start that loving conversation, do their food mood detective work. We even have one we just completed. I'm doing it live right now, so we're about like 2 months in, and so we just finished the body section, and the last one is called Kitchen Magic, where I teach them about like intuitive cooking and like picking out ingredients based on their intuition and making their own elixirs and stuff like that. And then we have a mind section and a soul section, and it really was like I've been working with people one-on-one for years now, but I think it was like seven years or something. I was thinking about the other day, and I was like, wow. And I just realized that so much of what I talk about in my one-on-one coaching, and so much of the tools that I've used in my life have been so helpful, and have had this practical magic conversation. So the culminating energy around practical magic is that it's half practical, half magical. And I think that's the secret sauce that some people miss. Because sometimes we get into like a magical strut, or then we get into a practical strut. But the secret sauce is when we do both. So it's like for any action you do, anything you want to create in your life, there's always a practical and there's always a magical side of it, right? So you want to give me an example of something you want and I'll tell you, or something someone could want?
A puppy.
A puppy. Okay, perfect. That's right. Oh, that's a great one. That works. I did this actually for my current dog. So the practical side of that is obvious, right? Would be like maybe researching different breeds, maybe looking at different adoption places or different breeders, depending on whatever way you want to go with it. Like kind of doing your due diligence and like figuring out what kind of dog do I want? How big does he have to be? Do I need a hypoallergenic dog? You know, what are dogs, you know, how you're getting dogs in the areas? What are my favorite adoption places, all the practical stuff. And then the magical side of that would be sitting in meditation and allowing like your dog to come to you, like energetically opening yourself and maybe writing. I wrote a letter to my current dog before I had him and was like, I'm ready for you and I want to take care of you and like please let me know that it's you when I find you. And then I also really like in that same reflective space like thought about the qualities he would have. So it was really funny because with my dog, I knew I wanted like a smaller dog. I wanted to be under 10 pounds because I travel a lot. So I wanted something and I'd be so paranoid to put it below the plane. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I need a dog that can always be on my lap in a plane. So I was like under 10 pounds and I had always liked Yorkies, but I was open because I knew I was adopting. So I was like, Yorkies would be great or something that like is in that vein. And then my specific request was that I wanted a dog with an old man name. Because I didn't want to, I knew I was adopting and I could name the dog an old man name, but I felt guilty about that because I was like, the dog's been through so much. So I really want to rename the dog and then now it has this new trauma because his mom just needed a cuter name. His name wasn't good enough, you know? So those were my requests. And literally like just a couple of days after I like set all my requests in, I came across, I was looking at Pet Finder, which like does all of the dog adoption things and consults them in one nice neat place. And I saw this 7-pound Yorkie named Carl. And I was like, Carl? Is it you, Carl? And, you know, the talking to his foster moms and the whole story of his adoption was so magical. And I knew like 110%. It was like, oh yeah, you're my dog. But so that's just an example. So in any aspect of your life, there's always the practical actions that you can take, right? And there's always the magical actions that you can take, which usually involve getting clear, holding the vision, and holding the energy, and doing something energetically around it. If you wanted to take the magic to another level with that, you could even do a ritual around it. You could set up perhaps like a space in your house that has a picture of a dog that really just like resonates with you, or like the energy of the dog you want. Maybe you could put a candle in that, right? And light the candle for the dog and have that just be like a symbolic energetic space in your home that is actually holding the space for that dog to come. So for anything in my life, I always do, okay, what's the practical actions and what's the magical actions? And I really think it's the combination of the both that makes things happen fast. And oftentimes when you feel stuck, it's because you've been looking at something in one way and you haven't done both. So sometimes my tendency is usually to go too magical and forget the practical. But a lot of people go too practical and then forget the magical. So my long answer about that.
Yeah, the both. Well, and when you're saying create the energy around it or the ritual, like the more magic side, that's very similar to like vision boarding in a way, right? And
yeah.
Manifesting that way is by keeping it top of mind and keeping it near you. So you're always kind of calling it in a way.
Exactly. Vision boarding I would classify that as a magical thing that you could do. Like you could do vision boarding specifically for a dog or specifically for a career move or specifically for a partner, you know?
Right. Yeah, I have Oprah on my vision board, so I'm calling her. I've actually met Oprah before.
Yeah?
So I want to go again. Yeah. This came up earlier, so I wanted to kind of circle back to it. What would you tell someone who's struggling with body image issues? And most women in not even just America, I would say probably across the world, have a very not great relationship with their body. And there's a lot of shame around it. There's a lot of hatred towards it. So for someone who's feeling like their body is not enough and they're not happy with their body, how do they start changing that physical or that mental chatter about their body into something more positive? And why is it so important that we do that?
Yeah. So I think so many people are afflicted by this. And, I think, when we talk about eating disorders and different things like that, that's like, I think sometimes we dismiss our own negative chatter if it's not that extreme, when in reality it's just as insidious, right? It's just as insidious. So many people that look normal or have relatively quote-unquote normal food behaviors still have horrendous negative chatter in their voice around, in their head around their body. And so it's so important because, one, when you really stop and think about it, and I'm sure just listening this, you're going to be like, oh my God, yes. Think about the amount of energy you waste just out of your day and out of your beautiful life in that energy of like, I'm not good enough, or something's wrong with my body, or I have to fix my body, right? And so like what could be possible for your life if you reclaim that energy? You know, when I was able to heal a lot of my disordered thoughts around my body, it was like I had like literally felt like I had extra time. I was like, oh my God, I have so much time. What was I doing with this time before? Oh, I was stuck in my head talking to my body, you know? And so one of the exercises I tell all my girls to do is just to imagine that those nasty comments or those mean, you know, things that we all have is actually like a super bitchy roommate. Right? Like, just imagine that you just have like the meanest mean girl roommate, you know? And if you imagine that mean girl roommate, you really can ask yourself, like, how much of what she says to me would I listen to? You know? And I think, so then first of all, this is, if any of you guys have ever read Michael Singer's book, it reflects one of his concepts about it when he talks about meditation and talks about separating the different minds. And so one of the things I firstly recommend that doing that I think is very powerful is separating those two voices, right? And reclaiming your voice as your voice and this mean voice as not your voice, right? So this is just whatever you can call her, whatever. Me and one of my girlfriends call her Edith. And because we're just like, yeah, it's Edith that's talking. Edith keeps on telling me this, and it's really getting to me, you know? But even saying that, it's like, giving her a name, I think, is hilarious, right? You know, or just calling her like the mean girl or whatever you want to call her. Because then every time she comes up, you label it as that. Because what's really hurting you is labeling it as you or labeling it as truth.
Right.
Right? And so you can have those same thoughts in the beginning, and they'll dissipate when you the more you practice and the more you do that relationship. But when you start, every time you hear that thing that says like, oh, you're fat, or oh, like, you're never going to have that body, or like, yeah, you might as well just eat another cupcake, you pig, or whatever those mean things that it says to you are, if you can look at it as like this mean roommate, you can be like, shut up. And like, you know, I think the day things start to shift is the day you finally start saying shut up to it, right? And then I take it to the next level. I always say start with shut up, and then you start laughing, right? Like I got to a point after saying shut up for a bit where I just started laughing. I'd be like, wow, you crazy. Like, you crazy. Oh, that's a great idea. Let me just not eat for 3 days. Brilliant idea, because I had fries, right? And I just was able to actually tune into the absurdity of it after I had separated it from me and my truth. So I recommend just trying that for a little bit. Just give her a name. You know, maybe give her a name of like the meanest girl you went to high school with. and every time you hear that voice, be like, oh, you can shut up, Edith. I don't need to hear you today.
I love that advice. That's so good. That's really great. To really separate it, and then it takes it off of you.
Takes the power away from it.
Yeah.
So that all of a sudden, you know, Edith or Stacy or Sheila or whatever you call it doesn't, like, it's not getting any power, because it's like anything. It's like if every time let that voice talks, you listen to it and you take it as word, it builds its power, right? And so you're like, oh, great, like, that's true. And then it, like, goes down that route. But if every time it comes up, you're like, no, that's my mean girl roommate, you diffuse its power. And you revert yourself, you almost remind yourself in that instant that that is not the truth.
Right. And it's so important that we do nip all of these negative thoughts in the bud, because you might think, oh, I'm not hurting anyone, or, oh, it's not that bad, whatever. Everyone says these things to ourselves. But when you repeatedly call yourself a name or think of yourself as a certain way, whether it's fat or ugly or like whatever it is, then we all have had points in our life where we looked in the mirror and said these nasty things. The problem is when you get somewhere, when you get to the restaurant, when you get to the grocery store, and you have the choice between the apple and the cookie, the fat girl is going to choose the cookie
Yep.
Right? Or if you have the choice between taking the stairs or the escalator, right? The one that hates exercise and doesn't work out, she's going to go up the escalator. Whereas if you think of yourself as the fit person, you're going to go up the stairs, right? So it's like you don't think it's having a big effect on you, but subconsciously, when we constantly have that negative self-talk, it's definitely taking a toll on our decision making.
Oh my gosh. What you say, whatever you say after the words I am, is like the most powerful thing. The most powerful thing. And that's so true, like what you said. So if you even, regardless of how you feel, like let's say you're genuinely like, I genuinely like 10 pounds overweight, or I'm genuinely 20 pounds overweight, or whatever the thing is, right? Okay, but if you say like, I am a person that makes healthy choices and that honors my body, right? I have this thing that I call genuine gratitude or genuine authenticity, which for me is like, let's not lie. Let's not pick a thing. Let's not say I'm a Victoria's Secret model. If the second you say that, you're like, that's not true. Let's find something like that. Like you're starting your healthy journey. I am on a journey for healthy living. I'm on my way to learning healthier habits, right? And like you come up with those affirmations that are true for where you're at right now, and that naturally, subconsciously programs you throughout the day. Like you said, when you're like, oh, I'm the person that's making healthy lifestyle changes now. I'm going to go for the salad instead of the pizza for lunch or whatever it is. Right. Maybe I'm actually now that I'm on my fit journey program, maybe I will go to that kickboxing class after work, and all of a sudden you change how you associate yourself. And also just to your point, what you said about like when you're actually saying all these nasty things to you, you don't realize it, but it actually affects how you approach everything in your life. A movie I thought was great with Amy Schumer. I think it was called I Feel Pretty.
I like that movie.
I think every woman that has negative self-talk should watch that movie because you actually see the difference. Nothing actually changed in Amy's physical appearance. All that changed was the way she saw herself and the way she looked at herself, and it completely transformed how she acted in relationships, how she acted in her job, and that's real. I've seen that in my own life. I was the same person, like competency wise and like physical looking wise or whatever. But when I was in the thick of all those negative, I could have never written a book. I could never like have started my own business. I couldn't have had that confidence or had that drive to actually go after my dreams.
Yeah, it just goes back to everything really starts with our mindset. It really, really does. So one question I like to ask everyone on the show is if there's one tip or piece of advice that you could leave our listeners with to live a happier and healthier life, what would that be?
Okay, well, I'm just going to say the first thing that comes up. I feel like I've given a lot of tips. But the first thing that comes up for me is forgive quickly. That's just what I heard when you asked, so I'm just going to honor that, is because I think one of the things that sabotages people most in life is that they hang on too long to their mistakes. And so whether that mistake for you is like, whether it's forgiving yourself, most of the times it's forgiving yourself. But it's like, whether that mistake is like you decided you were eating healthier and then you went out with your girlfriends and somehow you ended up getting pizza at 2 a.m. Great, forgive yourself quickly. Start again tomorrow. Whether it's like you're starting a business and you mess something up or whatever, great, forgive yourself quickly, start again tomorrow. So I would just think about that. I think the things that actually sabotage us the most are not our mistakes. It's us not forgiving ourselves after our mistakes, or us staying in that, allowing that to sabotage us instead of just forgive quickly and start again. Every day is a new day.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great piece of advice. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. It was so fun.
Yes. And if anyone wants to learn more and hear more from Cassandra, you can go to CassandraBodzak.com. And you can also find her on Instagram.